movie star Scarlett Johansson has some questions for OpenAI, claiming the ChatGPT voice-generated assistant sounded eerily familiar to her. According to The Hill, she reported feeling shocked and angry after OpenAI released its voice artificial intelligence assistant, Sky, and it sounded exactly like her. The star told The Hill OpenAI CEO Sam Altman previously approached her to be the voice of Sky, and she declined. AI has become a top concern, of course, for creators and creatives who fear that it may supplant their likeness and their incomes.
In a statement to The Hill Monday, Johansson said, quote, "When I heard the released demo, I was shocked, angered, and in disbelief that Mr. Altman would pursue a voice that sounded so eerily similar to mine, that my closest friends and news outlets could not tell the difference." Altman disagreed that Sky sounds like Johansson, but last week he seems to have acknowledged it by posting just one word, her, on X, which is, of course, the title of a film she starred in back in 2013 as the voice of an AI machine. Is that a coincidence? Nevertheless, Johansson told The Hill she hired legal counsel to request OpenAI take down the Sky voice, and it did. OpenAI still denies Johansson's claim, noting, quote, "Sky's voice is not an imitation of Scarlett Johansson, but belongs to a different professional actress using her own natural speaking voice." I'd really like to hear this actress, maybe get some clips of this actress in conversation in various contexts when she is not, on recording these voices that sound apparently a lot like Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Sam Altman, who you can tell is obsessed with this movie, wanted Scarlett Johansson for this role specifically because she had been in this movie. And let's not bury the lead. The movie is about a man who falls in love with the AI that is voiced by Scarlett Johansson, and it's a very good movie.
I loved it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. Played by
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix, yes.
Phoenix, yeah.
Really good movie. So then his tweet, and the movie's called Her. So his tweet, Her, is like acknowledging that was absolutely the vibe he was going for, and then the voice she's saying, and maybe other people feel this way, I haven't heard it, sound like her. Now, I don't know though. It gets into how much do they have to manipulate your voice before it's a separate, I mean, this is gonna get into, Creative Commons, into copyright protected stuff. If you alter the voice somewhat, when does she no longer have ownership over it? This is going to get into some interesting waters.
Well, look, I want to ask you, Robby, do you feel differently about these issues than you did when we first brought this up? There was a story we were talking about where, I forget, was it a celebrity who had AI pornography made about them, and you were saying that you didn't know if that was going to be protected or not, or that it should be protected, and that might be somebody's kind of creative endeavor. And in this case, you're seeing that it has a direct kind of, the average celebrity might not ever do pornography. It's not about their income stream. It's about their kind of right to privacy and protecting their image. Here, it could directly imperil actors' ability to make money. Well, if a model can be basically CGI'd and put in any clothes, in any position, what kind of rights do they have to, or how much money should they get from that first scan if it's going to ruin their entire career? And you can see how this could imperil actors' ability to do their jobs as well.
Fraudulently creating something and then fraudulently representing it as that person, their likeness or their voice, I think can and should already be prosecuted under existing law. But this is kind of the opposite case, where they're using someone else's voice and they're not paying her for it. But if it's exactly her voice, if they just play a recording of her voice or something, then I think we would probably all say, well, she has an ownership right to that, and you can't profit from that. Maybe.
I mean, what is the difference between using AI to have a machine sound just like Scarlett Johansson and getting a really good imitator who's a person who sounds very much like Scarlett Johansson? I was thinking about this kind of viral TikTok that maybe you've seen where there's a guy who does the voice of Eddie Murphy's donkey character from Shrek in Singapore. And it's like dissonant and funny because it's the guy from Singapore who sounds like Eddie Murphy. They obviously look nothing alike. But he does a very good job doing the donkey voice for Disney Singapore. Now, the reason this has come to pass seems obvious. Eddie Murphy, 20 years out from this movie, maybe doesn't want to keep coming back to voice every new character in animatronic or whatever.
Right. They replaced Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck and Kermit the Frog periodically.
Right, and we don't know if maybe he still gets royalties for creating that character, regardless if he doesn't actually provide the actual voices. But that seems like a kind of a natural progression that we could expect. But would Eddie Murphy feel differently about it if they were just using technology to create his voice and he wasn't getting any residuals from that? And would he feel differently about it if the voice were now being used in different contexts outside of the scope of Disney and their kind of shared interest in protecting the character, and suddenly they were using the donkey voice to sell cigarettes or Teslas or something that he just ideologically is aligned with?
But if they just got someone who can do an amazing Eddie Murphy impression, and that person is out there selling cigarettes or Teslas, and they just do a really good Eddie Murphy impression. It's not like he owns. That would be weird if he has like some exclusive license to, like, you just happen to make yourself be able to sound like this guy. Again, if you're fraudulently representing yourself as Eddie Murphy, then sure. But if you're just like relying on the similarity of it, and that's creating some positive association in the customer, I don't know how you can possibly create. Or you'd have to create really robust and intellectual property laws that I would disagree with.
There are rights to characters that you
to the character, yes, but
right.
just.
And so that's between Eddie Murphy and Disney. I would imagine the relationship between how much Eddie Murphy has rights to the character that he created for Disney versus those rights being severed and Disney being able to do what they want with the character. We don't know what's going on there. But I think the fundamental point here, as we get more into this, and I think that there are going to be incentives for actors like Eddie Murphy to want to, frankly, not have to show up in the recording studio every time Disney wants Shrek to say a new thing about a new Taco Bell taco or whatever is being sold at any given moment, is that they just want to be compensated for the project. And in this case, Scarlett Johansson, if you were approached to actually be the voice and you declined for whatever reason, maybe she doesn't like Altman, maybe they had a bad personal relationship, maybe she doesn't believe in AI as someone who's an actor in the industry, and the politics around that, frankly, just don't align with what her longer term interests are, and says, no, I don't want to be a part of this. And then your likeness is used anyway. Well, what rights do you have to prevent someone from basically forcing you into something that you have affirmatively rejected in the first place? I think it's difficult, and there are interesting issues here.
It's difficult and interesting, right? Like, what if I started doing like a really good Rodney Dangerfield impression on this show, and I started I sound like him, and I'm telling jokes. Now, I'm not literally using any jokes I'm not using the exact same words or the same jokes, but I sound like him. And I'm not saying I'm him. You're just listening. You're not looking at me. You're listening to the podcast version of this show, and I didn't say I was him, but I'm telling jokes in his style. Could his estate come after me? I'd have to think no, nor should they be able to, because it goes to what ownership is. I mean, I'm very skeptical of intellectual property in general. What this comes down to. But
I'm aware. I think the difference would be if a liquor company hired you to do your Rodney Dangerfield impression to sell alcohol to people who thought he was alive, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm selling ads on, in our business model right
but
now.
are you trading on someone else's reputation to sell a product that they have not agreed to sell and which they are not profiting from? That's, I think, where you get into tricky territory.
Right, then it's fraud. I mean, but it depends when you...
Well, we'll see what happens with the Scarlett Johansson case. It's worth noting that Shrek is actually DreamWorks and not Disney. Sorry for the confusion.
I see why, by the way, he would want, even apart from that movie, he would want her to be the voice of the AI, because she has the most lovely and reassuring voice of all human beings on this planet.
That's what men seem to think.
The only other thing, Sam Altman, I will never not find this funny, that the leading AI guy's name is Altman. Isn't that weird?
I hadn't thought about it like that before, Robby.
That does it for us for today. Thanks for welcoming me back. Tomorrow on Rising, we'll have more show to share with you.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. For those of you who like to listen while you're on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Bye-bye.
Take care.